Ok, manaceta kangichi, nyuka shute misandra, nyuka inglés bi nisha, porque no, inglés rima con aman, rurashani nikai video kunata. Okay. Anyway, so basically, I wanted to say things so fast that I just didn't make much sense, and I didn't really rewatch it to see if it was done right, and I just uploaded it. So I decided to do it slower, and it's probably going to be 20 minutes long. I just wanted to fit a short amount of information from me to include it with these videos that I wanted to put all together, but I didn't want to exceed a certain time limit, and didn't come out right. I didn't like it. It's from the video called 90, no, what is it called? The native population. There's this, the first part of the video of native population talks about the Spaniard that says about, he's debating on the issue that the black legend, and he wants to explain how, there's, they speak about this 90% wiped out, and he says, well, how do you go around saying 90% wiped out and leave out the mestizos, the mixed bloods, the ones that are culturally westernized and no longer identify as indigenous, and so they should be included. It makes sense. Most native speakers are mixed as well and can be considered, the same as a mixed blood. So, then if you were to include only the native that identify as native and leave out the mixed bloods that identify as, not native, then you pretty much aren't really determining who they are based on genetics or background or race. It is just simply two groups of people that divided themselves, into a group that identifies with the indigenous side and the other one that doesn't. But pretty much a lot of them are, interchangeably, I guess you call it, the same type of people. Some Indians are mixed, and some mixed people are pure Indians that have Hispanicized themselves. So it is really impossible to have a demographic based on who's Indian and who isn't, and meaning who's pure and who's mixed according to Latin Americans' perception on indigenous identity and not indigenous. So, basically, not to go too much into it, but the part that I want to jump to is where he says that the United States and Canada is only like 2%, and he says because obviously they must have wiped them out by exterminating them and killing them, and I don't think that really is the case. I think the population was very low in the United States and Canada due to its weather. Even though Europeans that came suffered from the climate, and basically they went through starvation, they went through snow blindness. I've heard they what else is it? They got sick. They were starving. They resorted to cannibalism, and so these are the things that happen due to the snow conditions that made it difficult to live in such climates. And we're talking about in the time of the Little Ice Age that I mentioned, which is the Little Ice Age started around the 13th century and it went on until the early 1800s, and that's when it ended. And before the Little Ice Age, there was a warm, you call it medieval warm period, where the soil was fertile, and and during that time was great for crops and harvesting and all that. There was an empire in United States known as the Cahokia Mountains. I didn't make much sense where basically when I said that it's not the same as Latin America, is because the Cahokia Mountains stop, you know, it fell apart, centuries ago before any European got there, and the Aztecs, the Mayans, and the Incas were flourishing, even when the Europeans came. So they were already, functioning governments, and Cahokia was just simply an abandoned area. The only thing they found there, people, was a small tribe known as the Cahokia, and they had no idea what those mounds were, so they weren't much help to explain why that is there, or so. That's a great example, is why I brought up that empire in the video, native population, is because there you see signs of a great civilization with a dense population during the medieval warm period, and then when it collapsed, it's due to the Little Ice Age. Is one of the theories. There are many theories. I recommend Crash Course on the subject of the Little Ice Age, or the subject of Cahokia Mountains. If you look at Cahokia Mountains Crash Course, they're much better at explaining these things. And what it is once the climate changes, it makes it, the agriculture falls apart, the empire falls apart. If there's severe droughts, there will be severe famine, and wars break out, and so it fell apart, and a lot of people started to, decrease in numbers due to, droughts and no food, and harsh winter conditions, and so they fell apart, and that's my theory. I really think that United States and Canada, the people were small tribes in clans, and no more than that. Since Cahokia, that's basically the conclusion to that. So it's not like the Aztecs that were up to 8 million inhabitants calculated. The estimation is around there. The Mayans are known to be around 10 to 11 million. The Inca society was 15 million people, and so some basically that's high dense areas of natives, and although the Andes is a cold region, there's really not much snow, or and but thanks to the potatoes of the Incas, which is they harvest in cold areas. That was a really good source of food for like the Irish that were dealing with severe famine and stuff like that. And if you look up Little Ice Age and Crash Course, it tells you a lot of bad stuff happened during that time. Wars broke out. So it's interesting to learn about. It wasn't just Cahokia Mounds or natives from the Western Hemisphere that got affected by this Little Ice Age. Climate change can be a huge impact around the entire world. So, and so in my opinion, I do not consider the population to have been small in numbers due to, I just really don't think that the Native Americans were a high dense amount of people in the United States and Canada. And I also don't think that would be that was the case in Brazil or Argentina. They're just parts of the Western Hemisphere. They just did not have very many natives, basically. The other thing, what was I gonna say? Oh, and then I did talk about the Hispaniola. The 90-day wiped out by diseases, supposedly. It's been researched again, and basically it's that there is no proof of this 90. They're just trying to fill in the gaps of what could have happened, and then they don't mean all of the continent. They're not talking about North and South America. They're just talking about Hispaniola specifically, and the only way they can come to a logical conclusion was, 90 that the diseases could have been the cause of it, and so there's no proof of that, obviously, and but the hugest, most likely scenario is there is the place, and that's why I put in the video, is that that's the place. And yeah, it was Spanish owned. It's by the Spaniards that established settlements there and conquered that part of the land, and that there was huge extermination of natives written by Bartholomew de las Casas. And they want to discredit Bartholomew de las Casas, but he is not the only one. After his death, there's been several accounts saying that these horrific things were happening. They would chop off hands, burn at the stake, and it was pretty bad. And and I don't want to make the Spanish look bad, but these things did happen in those times. And if you want to, you can speak like the Spanish of modern times do not represent the Spanish from 500 years ago. It doesn't really define who they are now. Like, for example, the Mayan genocide is something that happened in Guatemala not even that long ago. And Rigoberta Menchú, that's still alive, by the way, she went to Spain for help, for defending the Mayan people from genocide, that they're, trying to kill them and all. And the Spaniards came to their salvation to help them. So, certain bad events that, the black legend is true. Sorry. If you really research it, I recommend Bad Empanadas. He goes word for word on the subject that Columbus really was a bad guy. That's how I think he titled his video. And he shares word for word every detail of, he's really, really well researched on the topic of, on Columbus and what happened in the in Hispaniola. So that's let me see. So yeah, just my opinion. Well, I'm not an expert, but that's back to the United States and Canada. I really think the population was small in numbers already before, and I think one of the reasons a lot of Europeans came is it's estimated around 75% of Europeans from Croatia, France, Italy, you name it, came to the United States and Canada, unlike Latin America, where about no more than 25 to 30% of Europeans came to Latin America, and they aimed more on the Atlantic Ocean side, the Caribbeans, and Colombia, Venezuela Argentina, which is places they went to the most. And so yeah, and yeah, basically the other thing is the 90% wiped out is completely that so many people believe this without really well researching it, and not knowing that we do not have proper records in Latin America that can guarantee an actual estimate on the decimation of the population of indigenous due to diseases. It's not something that you'll find, you know. And it's just simply like there's my friend Manuel. He's traditional. He speaks Quechua. His parents speak Quechua, and there's he calls himself mestizo, and as a he doesn't mind saying indigenous, but he also says he's mestizo because he believes he comes from a mixed ancestry. And and so that's an example. And he may even put in demographics mestizo, and he's not the only Indian to do so, by the way. And so, in our demographics showing that we're the most mestizo country in Latin America is completely highly unlikely due to its location, due to its situation, due to its history, all the Spanish settlements you find in the Andes, the coast, and the Amazon. No, so it's pretty predominantly indigenous by race, and but you don't have any records, any documents. They'll say that there was something, and they're most likely not. And so I've met mestizos that look pure indigenous, their whole family does, and supposedly mestizo. And so that's basically it, and the Spaniard is right when he says that, why are you leaving out the mestizos? Wouldn't that kind of defeat the purpose to know truly the demographics of people that have native blood, So when it comes to 90% wiped out, who exactly are you claiming are wiped out? Mixed bloods or pure Indians, somewhat pure Indians, but exactly, especially here, which they have a blood quantum saying that you have to at least be 25% of native blood in order to be identified as a native. And so that would, grow in numbers in Latin America, because a lot of mestizos are more than 25% native, more than 25% Amerindian. So, and so yeah, that's my opinion on the native population, and I just couldn't say it properly, and just didn't come out right. But yeah, that's what I was trying to do.